In this video, we're going to install Windows 10 Professional Edition in a VirtualBox VM. This will be an evaluation version downloaded from the Microsoft Evaluation Center. So we'll go to Google and we will type in, I believe, Windows 10 Evaluation Download. And the first thing we'll see is Windows 10 Enterprise from the Eval Center. So we're going to click on that link. And then we're going to find a selection, or an option rather, for an Enterprise ISO or an LTSB ISO. And so we're going to select the Enterprise ISO. Fill in some fields there. And we're going to select 64-bit, English, download, and our download will start. So that's going to be about a 4 gig ISO when it's done, so we'll let that go. We'll jump over to VirtualBox now and we'll do new and we'll start typing the name of a VM. Looks like this thing is smart enough that if we type in Win 10, then it's going to automatically change the version to Windows 10. If it doesn't, then obviously just select from the drop down. We're going to take the default 2 gig of memory, which is a little low, but for a VM that's okay. We're going to create a virtual hard disk with 32 gig, and a virtual disk image is the proper format. And we're going to dynamically allocate this so that we don't have a 32 gig file created right away. It will grow as the disk fills up. So we're going to insert our ISO that we just downloaded from Microsoft. So we'll select that, click open, and then we're going to change the network. In my case, I want to select NAT network, and we'll click on OK. And that gives us a private network that's got DHCP services and essentially a router so that we can get out to the internet. We're going to start the virtual machine now, and it will boot from the DVD. So here's our first setup window. We're going to click Next and Install Now. And this will take a few minutes most likely. So here's our license agreement. We're going to accept the license terms and we're going to click on Next. And then we're going to do the custom install, which says we're going to install Windows only. We're not going to do any kind of upgrade. There's our 32 gig disk that we created, so we're going to highlight it, click Next. And this is where the install will copy all the files to the hard drive and get everything set up and ready to go. And when it's finished, we will have a reboot message, so we'll click the reboot button. If we don't, it'll automatically reboot in 10 seconds. So once the machine is booted for the first time, it's going to get everything set up, get the devices, drivers installed for the different devices it's installed, and then it'll reboot after it gets that done. We don't want to boot from the DVD that's still inserted in the virtual machine, so we're just going to not hit enter so that it will just go past that. And the first thing you will see is this assistant that Microsoft is trying to push on everybody now with Windows 10. We're going to turn that off by clicking that little microphone, and it says OK enough. Let's continue. So let's set our region. Keyboard layout, we're going to skip a second keyboard layout. Alright, so here's the sign-in screen. By default, it wants you to log in with your online Microsoft account. Since this is going to be for an enterprise type lab, we're going to not do that. So you would typically just do that on a home machine most of the time. So we're going to click this domain join instead. And we're not really going to join it to the domain at this point, but it's going to give us the opportunity to basically put it in workgroup mode, which is the precursor for joining it to a domain. So we'll type a local username that will be created during the setup, and we're going to create an associated password to go along with that. And that'll be the username and password that we log in with when the machine boots up each time. And it's going to ask us if we want to type a hint. I don't necessarily recommend that. Click next, and then we're going to go through a few prompts here to set the OS up for the first time. So here's all the privacy settings that you've probably heard something about in the past with Windows 10. If you essentially turn all these off, then that limits the amount of data that's being sent to Microsoft. It tells about what your habits and that sort of thing. So I like to turn all that off. And we're just about there with the final setup. So this is really more just a distraction while it's still booting and getting all the software configured and installed. Alright, so you can see it just installed a display driver, so it's still doing some things right up until the time the desktop displays. You can see here it's a pretty standard or pretty simple install. There's not a lot of stuff on here yet, obviously, just a plain Windows installation. We're going to shut this down now, and then we'll remove the ISO from the DVD drive so that we don't get that prompt and keep from accidentally trying to boot next time we start the machine up from the DVD. Alright, thanks.